Hi guys, Alex here, and today we're going to go through, some of the comments that came out on Tuesday, the 29th of March 22, about the Russia-Ukraine talks and how they're going. And I think it's an interesting one to look at because you have the morning comment, we knew they were talking, the morning comment about a statement being released, and then we had the commentary 2.5 hours later, of what was actually said. And we got a move in the morning one. Wasn't the best, but you could learn quite quickly about what markets you might want to hit going into the afternoon one. So as always, we'll go through the comment first. The comments in this case, market reactions to each one and the correlations, and then some of the key takeaways. So these were the comments that we got. The first one was 10:07, and I think the key in this was there'll be a statement after. And now for us, I think a few of us are thinking this is ceasefire. But all that is they've spoke about something, we're going to get some sort of ceasefire statement released, because you wouldn't put a statement out maybe if the talks were they were before, where they thought, okay, we'll come a bit closer, but they've not actually got anywhere. So then from there we had a market reaction. It wasn't great by all means, but we were looking for, in 2 hours, what's the clarity we get. Then 12:30 we started to get this about countries being in the security guarantors, and this is basically it: security guarantors, the security guarantee system. And then 7 minutes later, the market on this one, by the way, was starting to get a bit edgy. It hadn't really done a move. Then like 7 minutes later, 6 minutes later, 5 minutes later, we start to get this: if there is a new security guarantee system, Ukraine will agree to a neutral status. And that's the first one where we kind of thought this anyway, but Ukraine negotiators are saying they'll agree to this neutral status. So that was then the main one in that. And then this as well, I thought was quite weird. Says, first of all, a referendum in Ukraine would be needed on the terms of the agreement with Russia, saying that they could be coming to an agreement here, but Ukraine will do a referendum on this decision. And then finally, after we started to kind of get a little move going on this, we got the big one. So Ukraine negotiator says that this has been put to the Russian side and we await their official answer. And then this, for me, was the one, everyone's kind of been looking at. There's been enough developments, I think that's key, enough developments to have a meeting of presidents of Ukraine and Russia. So this would be the first time, Putin and Zelensky coming together to talk about this, and it's one that the markets have been waiting for. So this was the key move. However, there was this build up to it, and it was easy to get yourself chopped up in here. You had to try and manage yourself, and it was, this could have been really difficult if you hadn't learned from the first one this morning of what markets were moving, in my eyes anyway. So if we look at them one by one now, well, the main two, the top one, the bottom ones, what we see is, this is the first one. So there'll be a statement in a few hours, and we get in the S&P straight bid up, straight bid back down. Euro stocks, same story. Obviously the Nasdaq, same story. Then this is where it gets more interesting for me. So we had the Bund down. The oil was at the high of the day, straight down. And this is one that I didn't expect, and I haven't been looking at as much, but it was set up technically well. We had the euro, massive rally, and then a second leg. And basically then it was sat on a key kind of hourly high, if you can imagine it. Hourly high, and we'd come off. And we were now just chopping here in like a key area for me for a break higher. And then obviously we had the gold come off, the US bonds come off. But one thing I've been doing a lot is I've been going to these euro stocks, and this move was pretty much a nightmare. By the time you've seen it, you're in around here. You go on side, you're adding, you're thinking it's big, and it comes back. And it took, to look over this in the morning and say, right, which markets are moving? Because I got myself chopped up in the euro stocks, and the bund was a better trade, even though I've been a bit more reluctant to trade the bund on it. But also the oil, the euros move on this was really nice. So going into the afternoon one, I'd kind of debrief myself on which markets I wanted to hit, and usually I would always go euro stocks, oil, maybe bonds. Try and get equity, the oil, the bonds. If it was really big, And this was the first time I thought, you know what, maybe I shouldn't be going to the Euro stocks. I still did, don't get me wrong, because it's now like my habit of, on these is going to the Euro stocks, but I thought, you know, I've got to try and get something in this oil, especially where it was, you'll see in a second, but also this euro. And it's the first time I've really traded it on any of this news, but it was just sat on a key technical, and technically it looked the best position. You'd look at it as a normal technical setup and say, yeah, I want to get long. So obviously we'll see me trading that as well in this one. So that was obviously the first comment in the morning, and you can see the reactions weren't the best, probably because, you know, there's not really much clarity on what this statement's on. You know, it could be a ceasefire, could equally be they can't agree on anything. So I think the market just took it as a ceasefire and then realised we haven't got much and came back off, in my opinion. But this is the one we want to look at. So this one was the 1239, 1242. You know, this has all been put to Russia. There is enough development from meeting with Ukraine and Russia, so Zelensky and Putin. And what we saw is a bid in the S&P. But look how messy the move is. Again, Euro stocks bid, back, chop, and then move. And then what you see is this buns is pretty clean. Obviously the Nasdaq's the same. This chop, chop, chop all the way up. The oil, massive move. And what is key, and you can't see it on this, is say that was the first comment in the morning, we'd come off, we're sat back at them highs. So when it came off, it had the whole move to redo. The euro sat at where I said we had the double highs, and we were sat chopping here. That was that, sitting in here. And when it came out, obviously we got the push up and the squeeze up. And this is where I think you learned your lesson. You saw how the Euro stocks traded in the morning one and the S&P, and it gave me, for me, I thought, you know what, I'm gonna still hit the Euro stocks. Don't get me wrong, and I still try and put a bit more size on, not full, but getting closer to full size. But I then, once I saw this was messing about and I was having to manage myself, I turned and saw we were in pretty much this kind of range in the oil. And I just sold one oil because it was quite volatile, and I had to try and manage my way out of this Euro stocks. And I was also long an original move in, you'll see actually, I'll keep the whole clip. I was long the Euro, and I just kind of left one of them to run. And having these on, and in a weird way, having the Euro stocks on kind of saved me from, you know, having a good day on this, because I kind of, after I sold the oil, I had to go and manage my Euro stocks, and I tried to build a position again, and it kind of let the oil do its thing. And as you can see, yeah, we did a huge move in the oil, and it just unwound a whole day's worth of position. I think it did about 6 points. But yeah, again, I just want to reiterate this is, if I go back one slide, you see what happened in the morning, and then on the afternoon one, you see, you know, it moved, but it was a horrible move to sit in where there was cleaner markets. Again, like the euro, the oil, the buns in the morning, the oil, the euro, and the buns. And I think it took that lesson to kind of realise which markets you wanted to hit. So yeah, so let's go and look at this one, the main comment and the execution, because I think this is one time where I did try and jump around a bit more different markets and get involved. So I'll move this a bit smaller so we can see. So first thing I do is I actually sell an oil. So if I just put these at the top so you can see it's oil, Euro stocks. Right, we'll rub that out. S&P, it's bund, gold, and now look, this is where I brought euro onto the screen, and then we just got the 5 year at the end. So I sell an oil on the first one because I just saw it how it moved. I wanted to make sure I was in something in oil, and I actually ended up getting out of this, I think, pretty early. It's on 2 times the speed, so let me put it back to 1. And so what I ended up doing is kind of getting out of the oil. Or I scratch it, I think, or maybe I take a bit on this first move, but it's not. The first one was kind of a blippy move, nothing really went fully. I'm still keeping a big eye on this euro over here as well, just because of the levels it's at, and it's kind of come back down and retested this area. We've got little volume below, so a few bits came out, and I was trying to sell it a bit. It sounded a bit like they weren't going to get what they wanted, and this morning's bit was kind of like hyped up a bit, and this euro had come a long way on this news. But then eventually, when we get the comment, you'll see the turn in the markets, and what you'll see is the struggle in the equities, especially compared to watching the oil. And you'll notice on my, like, how I'm trading, I'm trying to, you know, get a position in, I'm building, adding into the highs of the euro stocks, and then it comes straight back off of me. And when I sell an oil, it went on side and it never came back. It just kept going, it just was off my screen. I didn't even know where it was, to be quite honest with you. I'd left it to do. Once I'd seen it do the first push, I thought, okay, that's on side. We can deal with these euro stocks now. So yeah, you can see the market's a bit edgy coming into this. And I'm trying to put a position in and just get short this, but I'm also wary of if something comes out the other way around, I do not want to be sat short, because this is kind of preempting a bit of a move, and I just did not want to be sit there and be short and something come out the opposite way with this oil, because this oil's incremented to 2 ticks and just be blown off the page. So yeah, we're going to just leave it to play this one. I think it's a little bit longer, because I think it's quite interesting to see how the comments fed through, and you know, you got the different reactions. So again, these are how, as well, while we're waiting for it, this is how I've kind of set my ladders up on my main screen. This is the first comment. So you see the oil goes, I buy a clip of euro just because I knew it was at the level, and then I go straight to euro stocks because it's just like kind of a habit now. You see straight away I clip in near the highs and go straight offside, 10 prices. Oil's on side, but it's not really going anywhere. The euro is pushing now, and this is from that technical level for me. We had the technical break and I thought it could go. But you see, as the oil goes, like, you don't really need, for me, I don't need to worry about this, and I don't need to worry about the euro. It's more now managing the stocks, because you've flicked up, you've gone straight offside, and you're pretty much trapped at the high now. And I don't think I managed this amazingly, to be honest, because you'll see I'll let it come down, goes back up, it comes down again, I get out of a bit. But the oil's still going for you at this point. And it's important to take note of where this kind of started. Let's call it, 107s, 106, 75s if you want at the top here. But where this move started, you can see the bund as well. The bund's coming down to the lows. Now the euro's got to its highs again. And this is where I think there's a chance. I scaled straight out 2 of these euros, because to be honest, although the oil's going, the bund's going, the euro's got to its highs. It's come a long way, and I'm a bit confused why this euro stocks isn't going. I'm now set offside. 13, 14 prices, I think, maybe. Not 14 prices. But yeah, so you can see as well the S&P is not going anywhere. It's only the oil, the bunds that have really moved, and obviously then this euro, and that's purely based on the technical basis for this, and it's obviously close to Europe, so you get a weaker dollar, the euro strengthens again. But yeah, I think the interesting one is you see there's this no reaction in these euro stocks, and you're just kind of trapped there now at the highs. And really, you're just looking for a way out. It's died down straight away, and it's just dribbling against you. It's the last thing really you want to see, and that's where, for me, it helped having the oil that I'm out of, by the way, now, and the euro position that I scaled out of pretty quick, to be honest, but I just kind of left one going. And then what we get in a sec, or a minute or so, is the second comment, and this is the big one: the Russia-Ukraine meeting, Zelensky-Putin meeting. And you'll see the difference now in the reactions. I mean, you're still going to have this fight with the equities. But the oil goes, the bunds go. So I think it's coming out about now. So you see me try and get another 5 in, miss it. So I hit market and get 5. To watch the oil as well as it goes down. But the euro, I've left one on and it's just pushing the highs. So I'm happy just to leave that to run. But really, I'm going to look, I've scaled straight out of 5 of the euro stocks. Because again, it's just not going. You've seen the euro push, you've seen the bunds near the lows, and this euro stocks is really struggling, as well as the S&P. And then in a sec, we'll get the main one start to come through. So I'm out of the euro stocks now, and all I've got left is this €1 that I'm kind of leaving to run as such now. where this is still going, because the euro is still quite pinned nearer its highs relatively, and it's got the technical break as well. So I'm kind of leaving that to do its thing, and this is where you get the second comment, and you'll still see the first thing I do, even though I said focus on the oil, I still go straight to euro stocks, kind of out of habit of these comments now with Russia Ukraine. Here we go again. You can see like the market is quite volatile, it's waiting for something. Once we get this second one, we'll get again, you know, a rush up to the highs, and we just struggle again. It's interesting, we were talking as well on our floor of how it's hard to pick which markets, because at one point, you know, the bund wasn't moving well and the Euro stocks was moving well. And this was a day where the Euro stocks was just awful, and you know, the bund was a better trade in the oil. So for me, it's trying to have something, well, one of each kind of sector so that you can hit and you're happy to hit, so you don't get stuck to that. So here we go, as I get in 5 Euro stocks, but still not really much is happening. Because I think I've kind of, like, I'm just seeing right there, bang, comment comes out, we get pushed straight up and we come straight back again. See, the bund's now pushing lows, the euro's staying at its highs, and look at where this oil is, 105.84. So we've already come off 100 ticks. I had another 5 into the euro stocks, thinking we're going to start to push now. This has got to be its time, because if anything, you think this is lagging now. But you see this S&P gets hammered back down, and I just jump straight out. I've seen this. I keep trying again, you know, 5 and again, 10 back in. We still can't get anywhere, and now you're going to start to see the other markets move. Euro just keeps pushing its highs. The bund then just gets smacked into the lows. The oil's sitting around at the minute, and you're going to see in a sec, is this is that kind of, it had like a real volatile, flaggy range, and then suddenly it went, and when it went, it just did not look back. It left imbalances and like singles. This is where you see me come and hit the oil in a second. I'm still in these euro stocks. You're just not getting rewarded for anything in these euro stocks. So I sell one oil, and I'm just kind of hovering at first, because you don't want to see this flick offside, and it gets pushed straight on side. And as it starts to go, for me now, you can see my mouse has come straight back to the euro stock side, because now for me, you're in that. You've got a position in. I've already left that silly size, but just a 1 in the euro, and that's still pushing its highs on the technicals. And now I'm going back to those euro stocks, and you see I get to 15. Try and do like a Demetris style, lay some offers to flick something out. Because I feel if this low goes, high goes, sorry, it should at least release a little bit, because it's just been, you know, trapped here. And you're watching now, the bund's now lower again, 20 ticks lower. The euro's pushing highs, and it's just pulled back. The oil's gone. This is what I mean by the stage that I didn't really know where the oil was. I was too busy on managing the euro stock. So I'm back down to 10 now. And as we start to push up, you see again we fail. You'll notice there's no interest in what the oil's doing. I'm just trying to let it do its thing. And this is where having the euro stocks on went well for me. So see, we get this flick up to 18s. And again, we start to struggle, and you just, you know, for me, if I didn't have even though it's only one oil on, or the euro from earlier, it's painful to watch when you're sat there in this market and it's not going, and all you're seeing is the other markets moving. You know, the bund's now, you know, 50 ticks lower, 40 ticks at the minute lower, and you've gained 10 ticks in the euro stocks, and about the same maybe. 5 handles in the S&P, it's not going. So I'm still going to try and do something with this, but again, you know, 150 ticks now in the oil, and it takes in a second for this euro stocks just not to go. And I just got to the stage where I was like, you know what, let's focus on the oil position. I'm not going to keep beating this euro stocks and it's not moving. And it does eventually go, but we saw how grindy it was. Maybe I could have left something on looking back, just leave 5 on and leave it to do its thing now. So you see it comes back. I by accident get myself short. That was a complete mistake. I do that up thing that I always do, giving it a second to see if it goes on side. It's silly really, should get straight out. And then I can still see the euro's pushing the highs, the bund's near the lows. And below the equities aren't moving. This oil's now off nearly 2 points. And what you'll see is it just starts to gather steam, and it just doesn't really stop from there. You see, it's always pushing lows. I'm still looking at the Euro stocks. Now we're getting lower, Now we're getting to the lows of the day. So we're doing like 3 points, 4 points. And all I've had to do is sit there, sell that through the low with their little flag, and it's never come back. It's never put you under any pressure, really. What you start to see is I'm still looking at the Euro stocks as if it's going to go eventually with this S&P, but you can see the volatility coming into the oil now and how oil's been trading. It's got that chance to do that. Iceberg 100, next price, a point down 100, and just keep going. And although it's done a lot of the move already, I actually end up just, treat it as a separate trade, but sell another one through the low because there was some important daily levels there for me. And just try and squeeze that extra bit. As well, there you are, 2 in now, sold into the low. You don't want to see it back above, you want to just see it flush down and hold the lows now. Like it bounces a bit, but relatively speaking, it's staying near the lows compared to the ranges we've been doing. But it's just as an extra trade, just to squeeze something out because you've deployed your size in the Euro stocks and you've got nothing for it. In fact, I think I ended up down on the Euro stocks that day just from getting stuck in the chop as these comments came out. Here again, look, the oil just keeps pushing the lows and it does that thing where it starts to flicker and eventually we get the kind of panic crescendo low. You see, I'm still holding the 2 for now, but I'll be quick to get out of one of them. The one I added is just kind of an extra trade, but in this kind of example, it can kind of net you an extra, an extra point, 2 points when oil's moving like this. Here you are, you see, you just keep scrolling your oil as it keeps pushing lower. It's just giving no real bounces at the minute. It just keeps getting hammered. Everyone's just rushing for the exits now. Anyone that's sat there long. You get these 100 lots, but they just keep getting eaten. And you go straight down and find the next one, really. Straight through it. It goes again. What you start to see is we start to come up to some important daily lows. So there's 2 daily lows below our low. The low of this day. And what I start to do is I start to get out of one. Look, first bounce, I'm out of one. Because really I've skewed my price. I've averaged in, again, the same equivalent as I had on first, so half my average price into a low when I'm 3 points on side. So I don't really want to see that second one move far back against me. But I'm still going to try and hold the second. You can see the buns have started to bounce now and the euro. And finally, for some reason, the equities decide they're going to start pushing the highs now. But all my focus is on now is just managing the oil. You see it keeps going up on the screen. But I'm just going to try and hold one because you never know how far these can go, and especially at the minute it's still quite orderly. I think with oil, when we're having these big lows put in, it's this crescendo low where it's just offered, blipping everywhere, and then it gets a strong bounce and it goes. So until I kind of see that strong bounce, I'm just going to keep holding it. And you can see then again, it's flush the low. Keeps going. There's not much in the book now, but it flushes the low again. I'm trying to scroll it because you never know how far this thing can bounce in a few seconds. Again, look, 101s straight through. And this is where I kind of get to it. This is the level now. So the second it comes back through up here, I'm out. And that was kind of my trade. I've still got this euro long. Granted, it's come back, but I kind of just left that. Once I've now got out of the oil, you'll see the oil comes down to low again, and then it is going to rip back. If I actually put it on double the speed for a second, you'll see it bounce back in a second. You see, bang, it's gone. Straight back up. You'll see, the euro comes and sits near the highs. I try and hold it. But that was kind of your crescendo into the low of oil. It's took out its own daily low from the high, another daily low, and a third daily low, and then it's done its bounce. The Euro Stoxx has eventually gone, you say it came out 10 to 15 ticks. S&P's done about 5-6 handles at the minute. It's not got anywhere. But yeah, for me, that was the recording I wanted to show you today. And for me, that was just about, we'll go back quickly, get rid of these. For me, this trade came from learning on this one of what happened with the S&P, with the Euro stocks, and seeing the move in the oil, the move in the Euro and the move in the Bund, and then just trying to adapt and change a bit. I still, granted, for too long got stuck trying to play in the Euro stocks, but I did eventually go, you know what, you need to have something in this, and I had something in the Euro. Granted, I got out, I scaled out really fast, but I kind of, had this and the oil to lean on. If you're stuck in just the Euro stocks, I think that could have been, a disappointment and a bit of a nightmare to trade in. The time it's done the move, and the second one, everything else now. So that one, 12.54, 12.54. You've finally got to here. It's not far off where it started. Blipped to nearly 11s, 10s, and you've finally got to 20s. So for me, that was a big takeaway. Is learning from the morning what was working and what markets were moving, and adapting, what markets you're going to hit. So finally, just some takeaways. We've kind of gone over them already, but just to go over them one more time. The key to quickly debrief the morning comment, reevaluate markets you want to hit. I keep saying this, but for me, if you get that thing of there's going to be something out in 2 hours and everyone thinks it's a ceasefire, that's your chance to quickly look at what blipped this morning, what held its move, what came straight back. You see the Euro held its move. The oil did hold its move, and eventually it rolled back over, and like an hour later back to the highs, and it just gave you another chance to sell the highs. But you saw the reaction the first time. Again, if something isn't working, don't be stubborn with it. Be nimble and try and move to a better market. I think, although my plan was then CL, Euro, probably Bund as well, but I didn't. I still hit the Euro stocks, even though debrief the morning one and I didn't want to hit it. But the second I wasn't getting rewarded, I went straight to the CL and just put something on, and I was in the Euro anyway, so I'd done that part. But just that, don't be stubborn when it's not working. If another market's getting a reaction, be quick and nimble to adapt, and otherwise you'll look back and you think, you know what, I wouldn't have got best prices, but if I sold a clip of oil, I could have took 2-3 points instead of sitting in the Euro stocks. And as well, this comes from the morning one a bit, because I got caught up in it a little bit with the Euro stocks, but I keep thinking, I talked to some of the guys, and the trade news like Harry and that is quite a bit about this, is hitting knowing what the key developments are that you want to hit, because we get to this stage where we'll have no commentary, and it's like this, it's comment, and there just blips everywhere, and then it goes back to no commentary. And when there's no commentary, any small sort of development can get a move. But when you're in this, you don't want to be involved until the big comment comes. That's a key development, and that's when you get the big moves. And it's, for us, for what we've been discussing, is that one about the Ukraine-Russia meeting with presidents was the big one. And not to get yourself chopped up in the morning, and you could have gone full size and gone hammer on that afternoon one, and really tried to clean up on that one. Even though you could hit the morning one, preempting it, when you see that Putin, Zelensky, that's your key development, and that's the one you're planning for, and you want to hit the size. So yeah, you don't want to get out early when this happens as well. I think the oil was a key. For me, I was kind of lucky. I probably wouldn't have took the whole move like I did, but having the other markets helped me just kind of not realise how far it had gone until I'd focused on it. But I know Reg did a mental session on this, is, with oil volatility as it is, you want to try and extract as much as you can. So don't be, fast to get out and take 20 ticks. If it is a key development, you should see the market have a substantial move off it. But yeah, that's about it today from me. Any questions, get in touch at info@axiafutures.com, and I'll be back next week with some other different types of streams. Thank you.